All right, thanks everybody. We got a special guest on the pod today. We got Shawn Kaplan with Cross Country. Shawn is Nashville, if I remember correctly, right?
That's right.
All right. Thing I like about Shawn is a father, leader. He's got an excellent reputation in our business, and he's got an interesting story to tell. I've been following Shawn for, I don't know, maybe a year, 2 years, something like that. And the thing that I find interesting about Shawn is how passionate he is about trying to help people and educate people, but also dripping a decent amount of personal experience and showing some of his actual life, not just all business, not just all highlight reels. So, Shawn, I appreciate you, bro. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Derek. I love having these sorts of discussions.
Me too, man.
I can
Me
only
too.
imagine
So
if we had this as a resource. I can only imagine if we had this as a resource when we were coming up as loan officers.
it would be entirely different for sure. So I know one thing that we were just talking about is the importance of mentorship and the value of today's loan officer. Whether you're, right before we came online, we were talking about November being Men's Mental Health Month, and it's something that just does not get talked about a lot. I feel like it gets ignored. I don't know about you specifically, but when I got brought up into the industry, it was almost the superheroes were, the grind doesn't stop. It was 24/7, and it was like a badge of honor. You know what I mean? To just be like a 7-Eleven and always on, always available. And it created this hustle culture, if you will, to where as I have gotten older, and I'm 44, just turned 44 on Sunday, but it's at a
Happy
point to
birthday.
where if you create this illusion that you're always open and you're always available, you don't have time in your life for the things that are most important, like your family and also yourself. I mean, I know that you're a husband
Yes.
and you've got children and you're a person of faith. What's your interpretation of that? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think how we started that discussion was talking about how there's a mental health epidemic going on in our industry in real estate and mortgages that I just don't think gets talked about. And I found that that's an area that I don't mind talking about because I lived through it. When I was 6 years old, I was watching cartoons on the floor in the living room, and I remember my mom getting a phone call. And I later in life found out and was told, that was my father calling her. And I'll spare all the details, but about 10 minutes after that, he drove to the Verrazano Bridge in New York City, and it goes between Staten Island and the city, and he stopped in the middle of the traffic and just walked off the bridge. And the reason why I bring that up and why I think that's important for people to understand is, yes, mental health is super serious, and this is something that we need to be aware of. But I never knew how much what happened with my father would eventually lead my choices in my career and in my life. And so I was like everybody else. I came in the industry early, young. I never planned on getting in mortgages, but I found out like how much money they could make. I saw the fancy suits, I saw the fancy watches, and growing up with very little, with a single mother and a 6-month-old sister after your father dies, you don't really get to enjoy the luxuries of life. We'll just put it at that. I mean, um, food stamps, government assistance, hand-me-downs, garage sales. That's just how we lived. And I always wanted those things, but nobody showed me a roadmap until 2001. I was waiting tables because I just knew how to work. And we had moved down here to Tennessee. And this was in college. And I was waiting tables on a mortgage guy. And he said, "You seem like a sharp guy. Your shirt's pressed. You're well-dressed, well-spoken." He's like, "You ever thought about selling mortgages?" And so just like most people, I got in the industry without planning. I think I told the guy, I said, "I don't want to sell insurance. I'm not interested." And he said, "Come out and see me next Tuesday." So I went out there and saw him following Tuesday. He kind of told me some things about the business. And he reached down in his desk, Derek, and he took out this folder and he threw it down on the desk. And I said, "What's that?" And he goes, "Open that up." And I opened it up. He goes, "What's that say right there?" And he pointed at the bottom line of the front page of his 1040, and it said $446,602. I remember it to this day. And he's like, "Do you want to learn how to do that?" And I said, "Yes, sir. I want to learn how to do that." So little did I know my whole life of growing up with a single mom who slapped me upside the head when she had to tell me the second or third time. And equipped me and taught me how to work and be respectful and dress nice with whatever you're given. Little did I know later in life that set me up for my career in mortgages. Because when I got in this business, I was like, some of these people don't work very hard and they're really successful.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these people are not that smart and they're really successful. So that gave me hope. And I was like, if they can do that, then I know I can do that. And I was off and running, but there's a before Shawn career and an after Shawn career. And that occurred in 2023, my after Shawn. But up until 2023, I was on the same path as everybody else, or what we think we should be on, which was work 80 hours a week, call as many realtors as you can, uh, um, uh, eat shit and smile, serve, like just give to everybody and don't worry about value. Uh, I wasn't taught social media skills, but I was just working and working and working. And eventually I started experiencing some success. And then in 2009, I got my first coach, my first mentor, and that was where it kind of really launched. But I still was not equipped with how to handle managing the day to day in this business. And it almost all came crashing down in 2023.
What was
You want to
in
talk about
20
that?
yeah, in 23, what changed? What was the epiphany?
So I was very fortunate probably about 15 years ago to start really building and scaling my business to the point that I knew I was going to be okay. I got myself out of $146,000 in credit card debt. It took me about the first 5 years of my career, but somebody taught me the power of low down payment, buying a house and moving every 2 years.
Yep.
And then once I paid that all off, then I quickly got to, $500,000, $1 million, in cash net worth. And that's when I was like, okay, this is working. Right. But I didn't have that father growing up, Derek, who, when I came home from school said that a boy. I didn't have that father sitting in the stand when I hit, a double or triple or a home run. I didn't have my father there when we had Pinewood Derby that we were going to. And a lot of people don't realize it can really mess up your head. Like, because what happens is when you don't get somebody to tell you that you're great and you're doing a good job, especially a father figure in your life, you will go and find that validation in other places.
Right.
So mortgages just happened to be my drug at that point, not knowing that I was an addict and came from a family long line of addicts. And so work became my drug and I didn't notice anything. People rewarded me for it.
Yeah.
Then I started realizing, okay, well, I could party, there's drugs, I can buy things, and that just exasperates the problem. And I kind of lived on that path for a while until I really, really just started becoming miserable and saying, hey, okay, I'm successful at this business, but I don't really love it. I don't enjoy life. I don't know where joy is at. And that was because I was trying to fill it with all these other things, which later I learned was just a way of coping and numbing the things we really don't want to talk about or face. We just go to work, make more calls. And there's a bunch of other stuff to that. But that's really what kind of built up and built up and built up. And in 2023, I was like, I want to go get a coach and get some help around this area of my life. I know there's an other side to this area of life. And
Right.
that's what happened in April, May, and June of 2023. Was like I made that decision.
The power of mentorship. I remember you. I don't know how you were. I mean, we didn't know each other then. I mean, hell, being honest, we barely know each other now. I mean, just through social media. But the truth of the matter is that I grew up and just this phrase just always still resonates. It's just real, recognize real. And I think that I tried this exercise recently. Going back to your point when we started at the beginning of the call was, something that doesn't get talked about is the mental health. The man in the way that I was raised, and I come from a divorced family, broken marriage. I think the first time that I can remember that I had dinner with both of my parents was at our wedding. So it was basically, wow. I mean, he got married. I was 35, just turned 35. So, I mean, call it 34, 33 years where you're getting one stack of values over here and another stack of values over here. That can be real conflicting. And so you just don't know. I mean, you have somewhat of a moral compass, you know what I'm saying? But you don't have a lot of guidance from a consistent source. You're getting dumped
Right.
of mentorship from different places. And sometimes that can be real challenging. But regardless of all of that, what I was going to say is that the man is the one that is the breadwinner. That's the protector. That's the provider. And it's at all expenses. I mean, I graduated high school and I went right into the Marine Corps. And the very first core value of the United States Marine Corps is mission accomplishment. And that is legitimately what I think of as the man in any functioning family, healthy or not. And in a lot of instances, it's not. So anyways, what I was saying is that, bringing this full circle, you go out and you go to these social settings and you're out with other fathers, or you go to a birthday party, or you go whatever, and there's other dads there, and you start, chatting, and it's the arbitrary, hey, Cap, how you doing? Oh, I'm good, man. How you doing? Oh, I'm good, man. And everybody's just all good all the time. Like it's some freaking fairy tale, right? And so I remember there was this one day where I asked this guy, I was like, hey, man, how's everything? He's like, everything's great, dude. Everything's good. How's everything with you? And I was just going through it, like on that particular day. And I remember thinking to myself, I was like, yeah, no, honestly, things are pretty rough right now, dude. Like, I very low quality of life, work-life balance. I'm really struggling, man, just fighting off some mental and emotional demons. And I wasn't sure how that was going to be received. And the response that I got was shocking. It was, oh my God, me too, bro. Like, me too. And I'm like, oh, really? You literally just said everything was all good. You know what I mean? And then what ended up happening is that vulnerability created additional vulnerability. Only then was he able
Right.
to open up. He's like, oh, I'm dealing with the same stuff, but it's like there's no outlet to where we're taught to bear it all, and we have to take all these bullets, and we can't show any weakness, and we can't do this, and we can't show emotion. And the truth of the matter is that, and it's I'm being what's the word I'm looking for? Metaphoric when I say this, because I don't think I'm a king by any stretch of the imagination, but heavy is the head that holds the crown. All that responsibility on you, like it can just feel exasperating at times. And I found that the more
Yeah.
that you open up and you start chatting with other men, other husbands, other entrepreneurs, other people of leadership, other people of in similar situations in life, this is not that uncommon. Very rarely do you
No.
come across somebody who's like, man, I got to be honest with you. I'm on easy street. Yeah, I got no worries.
Right.
When you really get to the
Right.
nuts and bolts of it, everybody's dealing with some stuff.
Yeah, I think you bring up some valid points, and we have to accept responsibility first and foremost when somebody asks us that question, to be more prepared to be open and honest with our circles around us, especially our family, friends, and coworkers, right? But the second thing is, I think we all need to be a little bit more brave, and that means like, no, Derek, seriously, like, how are you
How are you?
doing?
Yeah.
And like sit with it. And Ed Milet talks about this with Dr. Joe Dispenza on one of his latest podcasts I was listening to the other day. And that's what made Ed Milet so famous, and what he's so good at is he will sit with you. He will get to that root emotion with somebody. Now, look, you're in the grocery store. How you doing? Oh, nice to meet you. You're not going to be like, how are you really doing? But
Yeah.
our friends and our people around it, instead of just wasting time and talking about the weather, that's called cotton candy conversations. I actually really prefer to be like, if I don't walk away from that conversation with something that's real and honest and we got to know each other a little bit more, then I just really don't want to have it, right? Like, I don't need more friends. I don't need to tell someone what the weather is. We have the internet, right? I don't want to tell them like my family grew up, like who died and who's sick and who got divorced, right? I want to talk about
Yeah.
something positive. And I think what better way than to have somebody walk away and say, man, that dude, he really, really cares, just by simply asking, a
How are
one
you doing?
line question.
Yeah.
Yeah. How are you really doing right now?
How have you so when everything in 2023, 2020 and 2021 in our worlds were I don't know about you, but they were some of the best from a financial perspective, say, or some of the worst from a quality of life perspective.
Yeah.
I remember reaching a low from a physical health, I think, perspective where you talk to multiple guys in our world, several of who have had heart attacks, panic attacks, like stress attacks. I remember I came home from work one night and I was sitting I got home and we had just moved into this house that we had built. And I thought like that was going to not solve all my problems, but that was one of the things I was like, I'm so proud of. Like, this is going to be my happy place. I'm going to go home. Right. And you try and leave the stress of the job at the job. And I go home and I'm going to walk into my new home and everything is going to be just gravy. And then as soon as I walk in, kids are being kids. I got now I have a 5-year-old and a 4-year-old. Then they were 3 and 2. And it was just like shit hitting the fan. You know what I mean? And I went from stress to more stress. And I remember just sitting there at like the sink, and I could feel like my heartbeat, like literally in between my eyeballs, dude, like in my forehead. And I just remember my wife was like, "Are you okay?" I said, I don't think I am. I think I might be having a panic attack." And because, dude, this guy right here will just destroy you,
Yep.
from a quality of life perspective. And I'm sitting there and I've got it in my pocket and I can feel my pants vibrating just nonstop, just right. And you're trying to be present. You're trying to focus. And I just went outside, man. And I like rolled my pants up and stuck my ankles in the pool and just sat there and just woo-saw. And then you get ready to do it all over again. But the truth of the matter is, it's like, man, that shit is hard to deal with. So you in your
Yeah.
world.
Those moments right there, when you have those moments when you're per se putting your feet in the pool, those are the moments as a loan officer, a real estate agent, or anybody out there that you have to stop and you have to sit in, right? So I went through a lot of therapy, and what I learned is we will do things to just mask our emotions to move on, right? Especially
Right.
men, especially in this industry. So, because let's face it, Derek, I realized after 23 years that this industry conditions you to be rejected on a daily basis over and over and over. I mean, I told my wife this one day when the aha went off. I said, I never realized this, but for 23 years, I've been in a job that more people on a daily basis tell me I don't choose you than they do choose me.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have to pour into them for weeks, months, or years. And that with any human being will F you up pretty bad unless you're
Yeah.
ready to prepare for it. So I had realized that I had entered into relationships, even coaching programs, paid people to tell me I wasn't good enough. And so I was on that path for a long time, and I had two big pivotal moments in my life. One of them was when I got out of college and I met my wife. We were dating, and that was the period, early 2000s, that I was going out to bars, nightclubs, drugs. Like I could, buy dinners for people. I realized oh wow, people want to be around me when I do all this stuff, right?
Right.
And a couple of years into that relationship, I quickly realized I was like, this sweet, beautiful woman that I'm in love with and I want to spend the rest of my life with, I'm going to lose her if I keep treating her like this and I keep having my life is like this. So I hung it up. But now, 15 years later, I look back, all I was doing was switching my addictive nature to something else, which was work.
Yeah.
And the second pivotal point was that putting my feet in the pool moment. For me, it was growing up, my mom would clean rich people's houses and I would look in their garage and see their nice cars. So one day I wanted to have some sports cars. So I like cars. And I bought myself a really nice sports car a couple of years ago after we had our great year in 2020. We went through COVID and all that. And I woke up on a Saturday morning, and I have no problem with telling people this, but for 10 years, I would just, I would either smoke or vape weed to numb the disappointment of disappointing my friends, my family, a client, a realtor. It just got so, and so my way was create this little coping mechanism that nobody knew. And I just stayed high for 10 years straight.
No
And I'm
way.
not proud of it. But what happened was that one Sunday morning, I said, I'm going to go, babe, for a drive. That's my favorite thing to do. So I'll get up 7:00 a.m. when the sun's coming up. I'll go for a drive. I had a joint. I'm sitting there Sunday morning, cruising back roads, country roads in my Audi R8 twin turbo. And I look up Derek and I said, you're fucking miserable. And I just sat in that feet in the pool moment. And I was like, okay, we're going to sit in this. Why in the hell are you miserable? You have everything to be grateful for right now. And I realized what I was doing was I was trying to please everybody. And I knew nothing about pleasing myself. I didn't love myself. And so a couple of weeks after that, I was speaking to Cody Sperber, who's the clever investor.
Yeah.
And Cody talked about having all these traumatic moments in his life, people dying. His mother died in his arms, and he went off to this PCS services. And I was like, PCS services? So I Googled it, and I realized this is where, a lot of famous actors, Mike Tyson went there when he got out of prison. It's world renowned. And I did a little research, and I said, well, I'm going to fill out the little entry form just to have an interview. And I'll tell you, that was one of the best choices I ever made. I did an entrance interview. They told me it was going to be $10,000. It was 7 days. I would have to go to Arizona, check myself in, do classes, therapists. I'd have 12 doctors, consultants, therapists, counselors around me. They would tailor the schedule. You'd have group and individual. And I just said, F it. I was like, there's got to be a way for me to understand why I am the way I am. And there's got to be another side. And so I went away for 7 days. I signed up and I did that. And what I realized when I was out there was I had put everybody else in circle one. And the only thing that should be in circle one is yourself. You cannot love other people if you don't love yourself. And I realized I don't really love myself. I beat myself up on a daily basis. And here I had a coaching program for 12 years that also would beat me up on a daily basis. And a light bulb went off. I was like, oh, this is why I always wanted these people in my life, because this is what my abusive nature responds to, right? And so that was the best 7 days I ever spent. I came back a changed man, and my wife, my friends, people have seen a difference, and it's empowered me now to share and talk with other people, about it.
Yeah, man, I mean, I didn't know all that stuff. That's powerful stuff. That was 2023, or it was before 23?
Beginning of 2023, and I went away in June of 2023. It seems like it was 2 years ago, but no, it's been a year and a half now that I went out there to PCS.
All right. So how are you doing now?
I'm doing really, really good. I could say that the last, year and a half of my life has probably been the most joyful. You see, Derek, the thing is like we're all told these things that we should do to generate business, right? The problem is some of them are not in our identity. Like, have you ever tried to get people to do video that don't want to do video?
Yes.
Like, it's just not their thing, right? But the guy crafts an email newsletter that thousands will read, right?
Yep.
And what I realized was I was working at places, or I was in programs that were teaching me that we should all do it the same way. And so what it did was it stole my identity. So when I went out to Arizona, I started realizing part of loving yourself is accepting the fact that you're good at certain things and you enjoy certain things, and there's certain things you don't, or you're not good at, and that's okay. Meaning, like, I'm not going to do client events and client birthdays anymore. I would not go to your kid's bar mitzvah if you weren't a realtor, right? Somebody asked me that. They were like, would you go to this person's bar mitzvah if they were not a realtor? And I was like, hell no, I wouldn't. They're like, well, that's not authentic. You're not being true to yourself or anybody else. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Yeah, you're right. I'm not going to work with a realtor. That's a jerk. I don't want to work with you. I don't care if you send me 20 deals a year. You're an asshole. I'm going to go work with somebody that likes me. And all those little tiny things will steal your identity, which eventually makes you miserable. And somebody looked at me one day and they said, this was prior to 2023, a really good friend. He said, I could tell you're not happy. And I could tell you this as a friend, that I'm afraid if you keep going the way you're going, you're going to end up like your father.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's heavy.
Rich, wealthy, but spiritually, morally, and mentally bankrupt, right?
So how you respond to that?
And at first I kind of was like, offended for a second, but then I know this person and I was like, he's right. I should be thankful and more grateful for what I've got. I should have more joy in my life. And that's why I mainly went out there. I was like, can you just please help me understand how my brain reacts to certain things?
Yeah.
And can you equip me that when it happens again, how do I process it versus just letting my emotions take over? Because I'm a hothead. I have a big mouth, and that can get me in a lot of trouble. But that's my way of fighting, because when I was growing up as a little tiny kid, I got bullied so bad that the only thing I could fight with is my mouth, because they could kick the crap out of me.
Yeah.
But I could say some vile stuff to people. That's why I have a big falcon tattooed on my ribs over here, because falcon's the only bird that kills with its mouth and not with its hands.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I would scream some things at you and then run away. But later in life, like I can argue with the best of them. But when you have kids and you have a wife and stuff, and you become having a team and employees, like that's something also it doesn't work well. You got to learn to grow through it.
No doubt, man. So how has that served you? I mean, this business we have some peaks and valleys, and there's a lot of stuff in our world that you can't control. So somebody that stumbles across this video and stumbles across this podcast, there's somebody that is close to going through maybe what you've gone through. What do you say to them?
Yeah. In other words, if I could go back 10 or 15 years, what are some things I would have done different? It's a perfect time of year to really self-evaluate on what's worked well, what hasn't worked well, what you enjoy doing and what you don't enjoy doing. And formulate your plan for next year around that. Don't do things you don't enjoy doing, and don't do it with people you don't want to do it with. Now, I know that sounds big and easy, and I know it's not, but you first have to know where you're going, what destination you're going before you can plan out how to get there.
Right.
And I don't think enough loan officers really have an idea of what they offer, what they enjoy doing, right? What they can, what they can really excel at. Instead, they're trying to just do what everybody else tells them to do. So social media is a great example. You know, I wanted to do social media, but I didn't really have people show me how to do it. And then finally in 2018, I met Neil and I was like, you're the best there is at doing it. Would you please help me and show me how to do it? And now it's a differentiator for me
Right.
because I can get on there and I've been doing it for so long and I enjoy that modern day approach to being a loan officer. But it also allows me to speak into thousands of people's lives like what you're doing here versus just going out and seeing dozens of people.
Yeah.
And so given that loan officer that advice, Derek, I would say, clean that up a little bit. Be clear at what skill sets, what your superpowers are, and be very clear on what your superpowers are not. And then try to formulate your life around that. And most of all, over the heading of all of that is my faith. And so Hebrews 11:1 is my favorite verse. There's a, faith in the things we've seen and the faith in the unseen things, knowing that everything happens for me, not to me. And that's been a game changer in my life. Hey, I lost $1.5 million in 2 deals last week. Like just rotten people that like just used me. And you know what? I just had to shake it off and, hear in my head, JJ Mazzo saying recovery rate. And I just said, you know what? They weren't meant to be my clients. I
Yeah.
can't control it. What can I control? I can control the fact that I'm going to reach out to my 10 favorite realtors right now.
Yeah. I agree with that.
So having
Earl-
faith that everything happens for a reason because bad stuff happens daily.
Oh, I totally agree. I think it's looking back, you have something that comes with age and experience, which is called wisdom, which is priceless in my opinion. You get into this business, you're wet behind the ears and you're so anxious and you're so eager to just earn a deal, get an opportunity. You'll cut your teeth on anything. I remember doing some of the deals that we had to do when we first get in this business, and it's just like shit. You know what I mean? It's like, but you'll do anything because it's the best way that you can learn. It's trial by fire. And I remember my first mortgage job, and I didn't really know what that meant at the time, but I had always thought of myself, like how you perceive yourself, as I was pretty even keeled. You know what I mean? I thought that anyways. And I remember one day, maybe I wasn't. And the guy that was mentoring me and I went to go work for, he's like, man, you can't be a roller coaster LO. No, like that's fun in amusement parks. That's not fun in real life. You need to be a heartbeat, like just little iterations like this when things really get you. These are people who are going to have the most amount of success. And then you look back on that and you realize what he's trying to say is that like, you can't allow the things that you can't control to get you worked up and lose focus on the things that you can control. You can't control what somebody else, how somebody's going to react. You can't control, if they're going to be an energy vampire from you or not. But what you can control is your work ethic. You can control your effort. You can control whatever you want your desired life to look like, or your life by design to look like, or not to allow you to lose focus or lose sight of what's really important to you in life. And, I find that the loan officers now, dude, when I got in the business in 2003 or 2004, I forget when it was. We had like MySpace, like that was the shit back then. You know what I mean? And now we have like all of these platforms, and nobody would ever think in 2004 be like, oh yeah, I'm going to go create a bunch of content on MySpace and I'm going to generate leads from it. And that's going to help take my business to the next level. It was all around this guy, right? If it's ringing, pick it up. If it's not ringing, pick it up, make it ring, So that was how and probably you too, because I feel like we're the same age. But now I feel like everybody is so focused on kind of things like this. And I'm doing this stuff and trying to talk to and collaborate with other peoples of influence and leadership because there's so much experience. this is not a one size fits all type of thing. Like what works for me may not necessarily work for you. And if
Right.
anything, what I have found is that you are like a quarter turn away sometimes from just blowing the doors off what your potential really is. You could be doing like everything like 99% right. And you feel like you're
Yeah.
just beating your head against a wall. And really all you need is just that one little quarter turn to just explode. And it could be advice that you might have. Hey, I struggled with this and I did this, and that's how I broke through this bottleneck. Or I really hated doing
Right.
this and I shifted
Right.
my focus from doing this to this, and I broke through this bottleneck, or I broke through this glass ceiling. And somebody that might watch this might be like, holy shit, that's me. That's me. That's a great idea. I'm going to try that. And to your point, I feel like our business has evolved into a situation of just, swiping the DAC. Oh, that's Cap's doing video. I'm going to do video. Derek's doing Instagram.
Right.
I'm going to do
Right.
reels, and it's just, it's not, I don't know. It's not, this is not a one, everything is not for everybody.
Yeah. Picking that thing that's important to you, that you feel you offer, that you could see yourself doing. Step one. Step two, making commitments to yourself and to your business. So, like, for example, I bet when you said, hey, I'm going to start doing these interviews, I bet you said, this is when I'm going to start doing them, and I'm going to do it for X number of times. I'm going to try this thing. I'm going to learn how to do it, right? You didn't just say, oh, I'm going to do it one time. And I think too many people, because they don't know what they want to do that really brings them joy. And number two, they don't pick a date and a commitment. Like January of last year, I said 2024, I'm going to work on my YouTube channel. I've grown it to 49,000 subs as of today. So like that is in 1 year that I focused on YouTube long form. So November, December is a great time to say, you know what, I want to do a podcast. That's the thing I'm going to commit to and learning next year, not the 7 different platforms, like and
Right.
becoming a master at everything, right?
Yeah.
So pick something and be really, 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 really good at it. Be purposeful around it.
I'm with it, man. I think that's great advice. All right. So we're running short on time, and I know you got a boogie. So let's close with some of our newer loan officers that might be watching this may have not been through
Yeah.
cycles. Somebody that's got into the business in 20, let's call it 16, 17. Realistically, the last 6 or 7 years, nothing but ascension. And this is the first down cycle that they've seen. If you were starting out now, knowing what you know, what are like, I don't know, give me 3 or 4 things that you think are non-negotiables to help create or fortify the success or forge a path for yourself in this market?
Yeah, so you've got the modern day loan officer and you've got traditional day loan officer activities. I think you need to have a hybrid of both of them. There's no one or the other. If I was a loan officer getting back into this business, very first thing I would do is I would find out what is my unique value proposition, or what we call in Go coaching, your wow and how. In other words, like if I'm on an elevator, Derek, and I know 2 other mortgage lenders, why should I choose you? What makes you different? That's very important. It's very underrated because every person we talk to on a daily basis is a prospect. Every person. That's what's so great about the mortgage industry. But so many of us are so terrible at describing what we do for a living. So simply ask, like, what do you do for a living and what makes you different? Having a unique value proposition. The second thing I would do then is I would build up my realtor base as fast as possible, because realtors, they are your client. I think that if you have 25 to 50 good realtors on a list, you can have a pretty decent business. I'd have a couple of financial planners and some people that are in professional services that I would link up with and create affiliations with and get to know. And it takes time. And so that's your traditional activities. Your modern, and one more traditional activity is, look, I tell my guys, if you're not closing 5 deals this month, then you need to be out working open houses at least one day this weekend. Why would you not go spend 15 or 30 minutes with a realtor in an open house and get to know them in a captive setting, right? I mean, so much crazy. No, let's go back to the office on Monday and call 40 realtors and beg them to have lunch with me that I have to pay for. Or I could go to an open house where I know they're going to be, right? But your modern day activities, I would say email newsletter is a great way. I don't see newer loan officers do that. And it's a great way to establish consistency once a week. And then the other thing is obviously building your social channels, at least to the point that if people search it, they can at least see that you do something. But your Instagram, I believe, is my opinion is your number one business card that you and resume that you have out there that people have access to right now. So
Yeah.
focusing on building your Instagram outside of mortgage, mortgage, mortgage. Who are you as a person? What are some of your life's most valuable lessons? What are some things that you screwed up on life? And that would probably be the covering around all of it. Be unique, be authentic with people, run your business the way that you want to run it. That'll bring you joy. And, you might not land there, but if you shoot for the moon, you might land among the stars. So
No, for
my
sure.
goal in closing to be, share with you all my personal goal. My personal goal in closing, is I want to do 100 million plus. That's where my lifestyle's built, and that's a great living. And I have a team that I want to see do well and grow. But my dream would be 10 loans a month at $1 million average loan amount, right? I'd like to do 10 jumbos at $1 million. Will I ever do that? Probably not. Will I get close to that? Probably. Another thing would be I'd like to get to the point that every one of my employees can work wherever they want in the world as long as the job gets done.
Yeah.
You want to go to Spain for a month? Go to Spain and work at Spain, but you better be on the call at 8:30 in the morning. I don't care what time it is over there. Right? And I think that would be super, super cool. And so by having that visual, at least my decisions I can make will drive towards that. Am I going to answer the phone at 8 o'clock tonight? Probably not. I'm with my family. That doesn't fit in my 5-year vision, answering the phone at 8 o'clock at night. Right? But there's also seasons, and we got to understand that we might be in that season right now, but we want to get out of that season. So I don't know
You
if
just
that resonates, Derek, or helps, but that's just what I got.
the thing is that I think it will resonate with somebody. You know what I mean? Somebody is looking for some mentorship, and see, look, here's the thing, and it's we could probably make a pod just about this. The direction in which this business is transitioning into, there's almost like a defining line in the sand. The retail channels like your company and my company, and people are leaving to go work on their own, where they might be picking up in a slight price advantage, they're giving up significantly in support systems, mentorship, teammates, peer-to-peer education, things.
Scalability.
It's, and the thing is that it sometimes, just sometimes, you can be too close to a situation to where you make emotional decisions that will vastly impact your life in an intended manner in which you did not make that decision off of in the first place. You think that you're solving a problem, and you're solving that problem, but you're inadvertently creating 5 or 6 others for yourself. Experience is the
Yeah.
best teacher, and you can only look back on after you've failed forward, or so is the phrase, to where you can be like, "Ooh, I really screwed that up." Right? I mean, I didn't gain as much as I thought I was going to gain there. But somebody will see this or hear this and say, "You know what? That makes a ton of sense." I think that having the ability to listen to other people that have been through several markets, not just a great market, because I mean, look, dude, I mean, 2017, if you talk 2017 to really the end of 2022, everybody thought they were Michael Jordan in the mortgage space. And the
That's
thing
right.
is,
That's right.
yeah, I
Everybody
mean,
wants to
it's just
talk about
like,
those numbers.
oh yeah, I mean, the market tricked us into thinking that we were much better than we actually were, because it was just property values going up, interest rates going down, and there being an over demand and an undersupply, and you have this limitless pool of people at which want to. I mean, who doesn't want to borrow money at 2.5%? Really doesn't take a whole hell of a lot of a skill to do that. But anyways, where I'm going with this is that I think that newer folks that may not be as weathered as guys like you and I, where we kind of have a few stripes on our sleeve and have earned those through time in the game. They hear things and they're like, well, Cap doesn't want to answer his phone at 8 o'clock, so I'm not going to answer my phone at 8 o'clock. And the thing that you said that I don't want to lose sight of is that's not where I'm at in my life right now. Like, when you're a rookie,
Right.
you're not going to get the calls that Jordan did. You're not going to get the Tom Brady flags in year 2 that he got in year 18. And you can only get there by putting in time and sweat equity. Like, you have to earn those stripes. And I think that when you get to a point, I'm not saying it, and there's somebody out there for sure that would be like, no, I can get there quick. I mean, there's a guy in our market right now, 2 years in, 3 years in, he's at 100 million already. And then there's part of me that I'm like, holy, that's amazing. Props to that, especially in this market. But he doesn't know any better. And kudos to him. I could argue it's almost easier because he didn't know what it was like before it was tough. So all he knows is tough. All he knows is
I
how to generate
guarantee he
business.
also 2, 3 years in the business has some sort of good boss, mentor, coach too, which is what you and me probably did not do. And what I see with so many loan officers right now, I mean, my answer to your question a moment ago, my big answer to that question is I see too many loan officers that have no mentorship, no coaching. They work for some old sage on the stage that's not doing loans anymore. And, they need to be working for somebody like us that are in the trenches and have proven and have systems and structures in place. But I would say that's one of the biggest mistakes I see young people make is they don't have any sort of direction or playbook that's being provided to them. I mean, I have a guy in here right now. He's going on his third year in mortgages, and he'll do probably about 35, 40 million this year. But the biggest thing is he has no debt. He's saved a ton of money. He's bought 3 houses. He's got 3 rental properties. He's got his new primary residence, and all in 3 years. And he's built a 100% referral based business because I gave him the playbook. I said, I literally told him when I hired him, I was like, if you do everything I tell you to do, like somebody told me one day, I was like, I will make sure that you do great. And those are the types of people that are going to kick butt and they're going to take over our market share. The other people are just going to kind of flare around. They're never really going to kind of get to where they want to be because they're just trying to change companies or product or scenarios. And they think that's going to solve their problem. But the hidden sauce for sure is definitely having coaching, mentorship like we have had in our lives.
Couldn't agree more. Well, Cap, I appreciate your time, dude. I'll let you boogie. I know you got to go to a meeting, but man, it's been 42 minutes. We're right on time and it's been fun, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I really, really appreciate it. I had a great conversation with you. Maybe we could do another one and we'll title it Why Most LOs Are Miserable. And maybe we could, talk about it a little bit more.
I love it, dude.
Okay. Thanks for having me.
Enjoy. My pleasure, dude. Enjoy.